Now your picture's going to come up there.
Yeah.
Online safety and what it means to connect with people online. Snapchat has existed for a decade and says it's been developing these new tools for more than a year. The company hopes Family Center will help parents with many safety issues, including one we reported on extensively. Drug dealers use
Wonder if Jerry's there.
pills that often contain deadly fentanyl. only place to get this deal? Now the Kellogg's Eating Reading Program, when you buy the details that I was supposed to encryption keeps my brain working right.
I don't know what they're leasing it for. Lengthwise. Got a 30-acre piece of property there that's gonna make $1,000 for me. $30,000 a year on that piece of property. And if you're gonna make that kind of money, the township should be making $5,000. You know what? I think Oh, I don't want that.
Portugal.
We take direction from the township board. Our decisions are only recommendations to the board. Township board has approval. experts from the University of Michigan. 2020, the Township Board approved an ordinance to regulate solar projects. This ordinance provided the township the ability to regulate solar projects and protect the township from possible negative effects from the project. During 2020 through 2022, Apex, the developer, has been talking with numerous landowners and has been working to get their ducks in a row. The project is still in the proposal or unofficial stage.
No.
Until they formally apply for a special approval use permit and submit a site plan, the project is not officially on our agenda. Until they submit their application, they are not required to share any information with the public or us. However, they have been sharing a lot of information with us. And, you know, so that's one of the reasons why we know what's going on. However, because we know what is happening, we are working on making the solar ordinance more robust and updating our master plan to include our vision for renewable energy in Milan Township. In the meantime, the Township Board has placed a moratorium on accepting any applications from Apex until January of 2023. In other words, until then, until the moratorium expires or is lifted, if they decide to do that earlier, Apex, even if they're ready, cannot submit their application. Now, once they submit their application, then it will take time. It will take additional time for us to work through the application and the site plan and the special approval use. So it's not going to be, okay, once they submit, it's a done deal. That's not the case. Anticipated ongoing actions by the Planning Commission regarding the large solar energy system project. We are currently reviewing the solar ordinance in order to make it more robust. We have received many suggested changes from concerned citizens. Each of the suggested changes is being considered as we work through the ordinance. We are about 2/3 the way through with the initial discussion of each section of the ordinance. We will begin holding official public hearings after we're done with the initial discussion phase. The public hearings will finalize the revised ordinance wording and details. After we have completed the ordinance revisions, we will then send the revised ordinance to the Township Board for their approval. Their approval of the ordinance does not give the solar project any type of go-ahead or approval. It only legitimizes the changes made to the ordinance. In other words, this ordinance is to regulate what Apex or any other developer can do with a solar project. It does not authorize them to do, that they can come in and do it. It only provides a regulation. Once a moratorium has expired or been lifted, Apex will be able to submit a request for special approval use permit and will also be able to submit their site plan for evaluation. The special approval use permit is a contract between the township and Apex to allow them to build their project once the site plan has been approved. The Township Board may add additional conditions or requirements to the special approval use prior to its approval. For the Township Board to approve the special approval use, it will require at least 3 votes to approve. The Planning Commission reviews the site plan. During this review, the specific details are laid out and agreed to. This includes everything that the ordinance requires, plus any additional items the Planning Commission may request. The ordinance, the regulations in the ordinance is a minimum. We have the authority to be able to ask for more or additional items. If the site plan meets all the ordinance requirements, the Planning Commission must recommend its approval to the Township Board. The Township Board will then consider the site plan and approve it or send it back for revisions. If both the special approval use and the site plans are approved, Apex will be able to move forward with their project. Now that is what's That is one of the things that will be happening in the future. When, I don't know. This is taking a lot longer than any of us expected. So, now, so that, I hope that answered many of your questions. However, now we will have a public comment time. You can make comments, you can ask questions. However, we will not be responding or answering questions. Many times the questions will be answered during either the course of the meeting or when we get to that particular topic in our discussions at this meeting or some other meeting. So you'll have 2 minutes and so we will to make comments or questions. So I now, and I have a 2-minute timer, courtesy of the Township Board.
You're gonna need a timer.
Can we ask, sorry, I'm not talking about, for people to say their name and not their, well, I guess address or something, so we just have to censor.
Yes, when I call on you, please tell me your name and whether you're a township resident. Okay. So,
It would also be helpful for address, so we know where they're coming from.
I think just township resident. Okay, so, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm Nick Stroud, Denison Road. And I know you can't address this stuff at this point in time, but after the last meetings, we group of us got together to discuss what was going on in the township, and we felt strongly that many people in the township were not aware of what was going on. So we went door to door.
Can you use the mic, please?
Here.
Okay, so we went door to door and started canvassing people in the township to see what they want, what they would like, or what they wanted, or if they even heard about it. So we're not for or against solar, either one. You know, green energy is great. We're against what's happening in this township, putting it on agricultural land. So when we first started out, we said there's a lot of people out there that weren't aware of it. And it seems like with the people here today, with the people here today, when the other meetings, there was like 4 or 5 of us in here, that, you know, maybe some of the people have not heard of it, because, you know, with the advent of social media, there's not a lot of papers out there anymore. So we sent this out as we went around, and it says, solar energy system ordinance in Milan Township. We are the residents of Milan Township are concerned about the use of solar energy systems on agricultural land. We understand the planning commission is currently reviewing and considering modifications to the solar energy system zoning ordinance. We are concerned about the existence of the ordinance impact on agricultural land and strongly encourage the planning commission to modify the ordinance to permit solar energy systems in industrial districts only. In addition to the environmental and business concerns, continuing to allow solar energy systems on agricultural land will conflict with the township's stated commitment to preservation of agricultural lands and natural environments. We therefore urge the township to limit solar energy systems only to this.
I'm sorry, no, one person at a time gets 2 minutes, not 4 minutes, and not 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
Can I tell you what this is, so you know?
We have it, you just gave it to us, you just read it to us. Thank you. I'm just trying to tell you. So, who else would like to talk?
We just started and got over 150 signatures.
I have to ask you to leave.
No.
Your time is up. Your time is up.
Gentleman right there.
Cool down.
Yes, sir.
Couple quick questions.
Your name, please.
Mark Cadets, Dennison Road. My dad was township supervisor at one time. First question,
Yes.
properties around this solar that is already there. What do we do with hunting? Are we allowed to hunt right next to panels? Are we allowed, because Monroe County right now has got a deal, they want the DNR has already proposed to have property owners, if they have vacant land, putting in hunting for public access. Is the township gonna supersede, or the solar company gonna supersede that property on the side borders? Can you hunt, can you shoot guns within 500 feet or 1,000 yards, whatever the case might be? And then I'm curious about residential value. Where is it gonna go? And then finally, who takes care of enforcing our lost for words now? Ordinance, there you go. Who does the enforcing on it? I've never seen it. And I can take you for a ride, Mr. Chowers, all over. And you know I can. And somebody else can talk.
Thank you. Okay, somebody else? Yes, sir.
Larry Greca, Dennison Road, Milan Township resident. So I'm just piggybacking on the first gentleman for the most part. I think the planning commission should create a solar district in an area of the township that doesn't have many homes and has less desirable farmland. I don't think good farmland should come out of production for solar panels. It'll be 30 years that property won't be in use for, or 30 years plus that it won't be in use for farmland. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Anybody out here? Anybody out there? Yes, sir.
Hi there, my name's Aaron Kneven, I live on Hickory Road, Milan Township, and I'm basically here because I bought this house a year and a half ago. I was trying to like do a little farm homestead for myself, and my property will be basically 3 sides except for the road surrounded by solar fields. So I'd also like to urge the township, like this other gentleman said, to keep this with either somewhere that's not affecting a lot of residential people, or industrial seems preferable. So that's all I have to say.
What's your address?
17901 Hickory Road.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody, anybody else? Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah, Lindeman, Dennison Road, Milan Township. Has anybody ever looked up the definition of agriculture? Agriculture is the art and science of cultivating soil, growing crops, and raising livestock. It's not a manufacturing facility. It needs to go somewhere else besides agricultural land.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Tim Stoll, Milan Township, 162 North Ann Arbor Road. I'd like to thank everybody that turned to come in tonight. Thank you all for coming. And some people in this meeting here kept asking, where's our people? Where's our people? You're here tonight.
Yes, yay, good job, guys.
They're coming tonight, some will be here Thursday, so they need to accommodate and take this elsewhere so many people can get their voices in and heard as well. And so as board members, you guys need to listen to the people tonight and do what they ask. This is just a small portion of the people that we've talked to, including you, John. You need to listen and put it on industrial, like everybody wants, with 20% land mass. Or if you don't want to listen, resign from your position. When you listen to John Shower, he talks solar. He's pro solar, and that's his choice. Please, if you have something to say tonight, please get up and voice your opinion. It counts. These guys want to hear it. We want to hear it. Our neighbors in London Township last night just passed it on commercial property, and that's it. They're keeping it on, industrial property. And 8 other townships in Monroe County have put it on industrial only. We need to follow suit. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Cheryl Majors, Milan Township. I was kind of upset, John, that you wouldn't allow me time on the agenda tonight, but yet you want to talk to us about the history of solar. But you didn't want me on the agenda to talk about my items that I listed. And I feel that that's not being transparent with the other people in the community. I wanted them to hear what I had to say, because you only get 2 minutes and you never get an answer. you answered my questions within 10 or 12 hours, and I don't feel that you consulted with the board about my questions. That's not transparency to me. And all of a sudden I got an answer, and it's just like, well, why didn't you answer me last month when I first emailed the questions? All of a sudden, now that you're getting a little bit of pressure, you're coming up with answers. And I feel like we did our part with trying to get other people here to voice their opinion and to show their support of this community, and we're not getting what we feel we deserve from AU. I don't know about the rest of the board, but I feel that everything that you say is pro-solar. And it's like, you should be a neutral person up there, not pro-solar. You should hear both sides of it. All of a sudden, you want us to hear about all the history of solar. You want us to hear about everything that you guys are supposedly doing, but we know what you're supposedly doing. So I just want to voice my concerns again, and I want to know, and you can send me an email, how do I get on the agenda with because I will have future questions.
Thank you. Anybody else? Comments?
Over
Yes,
here.
sir.
Yeah, I'm all for solar, but I
What
think.
your name, sir?
Nick, yeah, Milwaukee Road.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm all for solar, but I think you should keep it in an industrial park. Like when Linwood and Judy Davis and Dundee started that industrial park over there. And then Judy bought 1,000 acres, transferred off to industrial, and now that's all in one area in Dundee. And I think that's what it should do with solar, keep it in one area, and it looks organized. I mean, that's what industry does. I think you should stick with industry. And do the same thing.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, sir, in the back.
I'm John Van Trutz from Welch Road. I'm kind of new around here. I don't know where I stand totally on solar, but I do know when these projects come in, like the wind farms and stuff, when they're done with them, when they've got all their tax incentives, when they've let it dry and got all the money from Washington, they leave it. So I don't have a tractor yet. I'm gonna get one, but I bet it would be pretty hard to pull a plow through all the cement pilings that are put underneath when all that solar field is gone. It's not going to be useful for agriculture after that.
Thank
That's all I
you.
have.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kelly Fuller. I live on Cone Road. I haven't been to any meetings in a while, but I was at some of the very first few ones. And I can tell you the reason you have this turnout today is because there was nobody there, because nobody knew about this 2 years ago. I remember coming here and we were fighting to get you guys to send out postcards just to tell everybody about this. So if you're wondering why, this is why. I'm opposed to this. I think it should be in an industrial area. This is 30 years. This is our little township. We don't want a big business coming in here taking it over. And there is some impropriety with people that are sitting on the board that are going to talk about this field. They may not be voting, but they're still sitting in a position of power. They shouldn't be. There's also a relative of theirs in a position that lives next door to a clerk who has a vote. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but somebody's got to say it. It's wrong. It's improper. It's unethical. Thank you for letting me say my space.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to say? Or yes, ma'am.
Denise Fryer, Day Road. I've been doing quite a bit of research. 2 hours north of here, they've had a lot of issues and a lot of complaints. They deal with the windmills. We'll actually back it up. My first question is, where is the renewable energy going? Probably because 2 hours north of here, on all the farms out there, the renewable energy is going to Chicago. It doesn't even help our homeowners, our community, our towns, or even our state. It goes to other states. So they're using our land and our property to be destroyed for their use, not for our use. I would not allow this in here for any means if it isn't even going to benefit us. And companies are selling off every 5 years, which voids the contracts and has to be redone. It's happening over there. So you can shake your head whether you want to or not, but it's happening over there. We know people that it's happening to. one of the properties that was bought had an easement on it. And the realtor encouraged them to go big, go quick because of the sales. But if they would have told me, I would have said 10,000 less because you got an easement on it, because the people that are selling it get that easement, but the people that are buying it don't, and it changes the property value. So it does lose the property value. And they are, when they're destroying them down, they're digging holes and burying them. Right now, they're redoing some of the windmills because the barriers underneath are breaking down and they have to redo them. It's not, it hasn't been here long enough for anybody to sit here and say it's a good thing. It hasn't been here long enough. And our world is in such a mess right now, with all the crap that's going on from us believing everything and trusting everything that everybody says. Don't sell your soul for the devil. Just check it out, figure it out.
Thank you. Anybody else? Questions? Yes, ma'am.
I agree with you. I'm Jackie, I Sadler, I live at Redmond Road.
Microphone.
I'm sorry, I'm not a loud person. What is the township benefiting if we would want this? What are we going to benefit for this? We're taking the agriculture, which is food for people, who are saying we're having food shortages, going to continue on. We should do industrial parks, this industrial, keep the area like it is, like the other areas stay serene like it's supposed to be. But what is the benefit for the township?
Good job, Jackie.
I can't answer you at this time. Yes. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Austin Blake, 19670 Hickory Road.
Okay.
My family's been here since about 1864 in the area over here. The Hershams runs in the Rendell family. I'm here today just to, I think nobody here actually opposes solar panels in general or in practice, but more just wants to get a rezone. So I just want to voice my opinion that I'd also like to see it just move to industrial policy. That much metal sitting in one place isn't a farm, it's industrial. So I'd like to just voice my opinion. I agree the same as everybody else.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Randy Price, I live on Denison Road. I just want to say I agree with pretty much what everybody said in here. I second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or whatever. I just want it down on the record that I'm definitely not for this.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mike Price, Southwood Road. Same thing. I think if you're gonna put it in an industrial zones. It should not be in agricultural land.
Okay.
There's one on here.
You bring everybody on Zoom.
Lisa Babcock, Ostrander Road. I think it should be put on industrial zone land. Another say, can you speak to the master plan for Milan Township?
Won't answer no questions.
Thank you.
So,
Yes, sir.
I've only been resident here for a year. I live across from us, I think I got 500-acre view. Like the scenery, but then it's like, as long as I'm for solar panels, and I like the benefit, as long as we can, the residents that are all surrounding in the area, if they can benefit, the homes connect to the homes themselves, so we can deal with the power outages. I experienced 3 as far as where, even just a simple storm, and I don't like that, everything else. My first job was being a farmer, so I do understand the importance as far as with agriculture. But then I also understand as far as the technology and what we can benefit from, as far as all the power and the grid, as long as it goes back to the residents. Let's talk about it, but if it's going out to everywhere else, then, that's a different story, but then it's the importance of just like the, solar power cars and everything, we're not so far, but electric vehicles, the more they keep pushing for this, but 2035, that it's coming, whether we want to go with the old ways or not, it's kind of stuff, but then it's like, we just need that, that's what I got to say about it.
Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Charles.
On Hack Road?
Yep.
Thank you. Yes.
I was under the impression that politics were governed by majority votes, and I hope that holds true here in Milan Township. I'm for industrial, not agricultural use for solar. And also too, you say you can't answer our questions, but when will our questions be answered?
Thank you.
I'm sure you're not.
Questions are generally answered either during the meeting or when we talk about it specific, each what the topic was, or you can talk to us after the meeting or send us an email and we will answer.
So you never answer questions?
Not during the public comments, no, we're not allowed to. Okay, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Gerald Lee, Milwaukee Road, I guess my concern is why would it take the board so long to communicate something so large? It's been 2 years, I've lived here 20 something and I've never heard anything until a month ago. It's kind of disappointing that a board would keep something this big silent.
Thank you.
I don't understand why.
In 2 days, it's a township board meeting. This is the planning commission. We do the ordinances, the township board is the one elected officials, and they make all the decisions. They are the decision makers.
Is that for public or is that?
That's for the public, yes.
Yeah, will that be here or are you guys gonna try to move it somewhere?
And I'll be here as far as I know, I'll be here. So any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
I was actually just about to comment on that. I think it would be a really great idea if the planning commission could refer the board to using a bigger facility, because it's so unfortunate. I know you guys move the speaker outside. It's still very difficult. And me sitting right here on the steps, I couldn't even hear half of the public comment. And so many boards, especially in small townships like this, they beg for residents to come and get involved and things like that. And your residents have come. They want to get involved. They want to be in the know. And I think that they should be allowed to actually be in the meeting and interact as, as everybody in here is able to. So I just think that it would be great if you guys, especially Mr. Liaison, maybe send an email to the board. If they get it posted by tomorrow, within 18 hours it would technically be a special meeting because the change of location, 18 hours before the meeting on Thursday, and the location could be changed, posted on Facebook, the website, and you could cater to your residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Somebody outside knows. Yes? Somebody outside?
Hi, Sally Straub, I'm asking, I don't know if this ordinance with the changes that have been discussed, can that be posted on the website so that the public can review and compare to what we started with and to the recommended changes?
I'll answer in a minute. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Kim Rowney. I live on Mead Road. I came from my family's farm. Last name was Trail. Built a farmhouse out there 27 years ago. Still here. Didn't have an easy time building my farmhouse because they thought it was going to change the agricultural nature of our land. So it's on 10 acres. I assure you, we have fruit trees in the kitchen garden, and we've participated with our neighbors with commodity crops. I'd like to see it stay that way. And I'd like to see the project put to lands that I think are more appropriate. Some of the initial workings I've seen, I understand it, they're working maps, very much helter-skelter throughout, next to farms, next to houses in prime ag. I'm not for that at all. I'd like to see it consolidated to an industrial zone that's more in keeping with the product that they're promoting. And I'm not anti-solar, just there. I think it's a necessary product. I just think that they're industrial places, brownfield places, and other places that don't.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Walt Spalding on Wabash Road here. I've only lived in Milan Township for a year. The map you have here, so the only industrial as of today is just the gray area along 23 in the southeast corner, is that correct? Are there any plans in the future to try and change industrial areas to other parts of the township? Or is that gonna be a surprise? Can you answer that?
Okay, just wanted to make sure I asked that.
Thank you.
Where's the best way to get all this information?
Yes, any other questions before I say a few words? Oh, yes.
Introduce myself, because there's some new people here I haven't met before. My name is Brian O'Shea.
Bring your hourglass.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm Brian O'Shea with Apex Clean Energy. I've been out here working on the Azalea Solar project since late 2019. So we've been around here working on the project for over 2 years now, almost 3 years now, if you can believe it. We have an office downtown in Milan that I'm happy to meet with folks. If they have questions about the project, just reach out to us. We have a website, azaleasolar.com, and also on Facebook, Azalea Solar. There's a lot of people who might not have heard about the project or might not have been kind of tuning in a few years ago when the planning commission was writing the ordinance for the first time. But our intent is to design a solar farm that will power the electric grid right here in Michigan, connect into the Milan substation via the large transmission line that's in London Township. So the power is used both locally and regionally. It's not naturally piped to Chicago or to other locations. It's used wherever electricity is needed, depending on demand. I've heard a couple of comments about concern about cement going in pilings. Our pilings are simply steel pilings that go in the ground, no cement involved when we're putting in panels. So I just wanted to address those two things. If you have project-based questions, I'll hang around after the meeting. I'm happy to talk to anyone as much as they want. There are significant benefits this project provides both to local schools, the township, the county in terms of tax revenue, jobs that go with these projects, and income that supports participating landowners who've been living in this, who are local and have lived in this region for a long time. So again, happy to answer questions anytime you want. Been around here for 2 years working on this, and we're always happy to talk to folks. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody else?
Wait, they can watch how this.
Okay. What I'd like to do is, I'd like to say a few words. First of all, back in 2020, we did send out postcards to all the property owners in Milan Township, telling them about that we were working on a solar ordinance. So we have not tried to hide what we're doing or keep it a secret. I will have forgotten many of your questions. But like I said, the ordinance is to regulate how the solar project is run and what they can and can't do. In terms of hunting, obviously not around the solar panels.
So those people don't have a right then?
The perimeter, the property that the solar panels are on.
It's federally regulated as far as hunting.
Right. It's also fenced, will be a fenced area, so you won't, so. Well, anyway, just like you're not supposed to hunt near houses.
That's right.
That's right, so anyway.
They're right away. They can't.
On the right.
Let it go to DNR.
Anyway, the ordinance and the revisions and amendments that we are looking at is on the township website. Also, we have all the emails and suggestions that the concerned citizens have provided us is on the website for anybody to see what has been what they have asked us to evaluate or look at. Like I said, we are our task. The ordinance is tasked to protect the township as a whole, and we are a representative democracy, which means that our representatives, which is the township board, are the ones that decide whether different questions and which way to vote. If the people don't like what some of the their representatives or elected officials are doing, there's there's things that they can do, such as recalls and or vote them out at the next election. So anyway, but otherwise, we have the ordinance provides a means, whereas the developer and the owner of the project pays for any costs that are related to the project. In other words, the township does not pay for anything. The developer pays for everything, even our lawyer, pay for it, if we have to take him to court. At the end of the lifetime of the solar project, there's a requirement to decommission and remove everything from the properties that have been used, which include the fences, the solar panels, the infrastructure, and also to put it back to the way the land was before they came here. This is a requirement from the state of Michigan for lands that are under PA 116. It's also for the properties that are not in PA 116. We've included that same requirement in our ordinance. So in other words, the land has to be put back to the same agricultural condition that it was before they came here. Also, the perimeter of the properties that are used for solar panels will be fenced, and that's, in other words, along the roads and along the property lines, and outside of that fence will be a screening, which will be trees and shrubs, in order to shield, so that people don't have to, who live across the road from the solar panels, don't have to look at it. They'll be looking at pine trees and.
How tall are they?
The solar panels will be 12 feet tall at the top of the solar panel.
How tall will the trees be at one time?
And there will be screening along the perimeters, so that, like I said, so that the people near the solar panels don't have to look at them. Or the also there is the noise, the amount of noise that is allowed at the property line of the properties with solar panels is strictly regulated, as well as there is no glare and allowed, and and there's no lighting. Let's see what else. Anybody, you guys have anything to add? Yes, Pat.
Yes, I do. I want to either make a motion or a recommendation that we get the board involved in this on how we're going to approach this. Without giving us a planner, we haven't seen any lawyers. I recommend that our board decide either we're going to go on with this in Ag 1, Ag 2, or we're going to put it in industrial. I want them on record stating what they feel we should do with this. Go from this point on. We're just wasting a lot of time at the moment, and I feel that our board should guide us on where we should go from here after all this goes on. All this here, everything I've read, that's my recommendation, and I'd like to take a vote on that and get our input from our board.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, is there a second for that?
That I will second that. I would like some further direction from our board. When we first brought in our very first expert, Sarah Mills, who came in, I've seen her in other venues. One of the things that stuck with me the most was that we needed to decide as a township what kind of agriculture, what kind of farming community we were. And she gave us about 7 or 8 different definitions, and some of those may or may not have included solar, and I'm good with that. But as a representative of this township that served on its planning commission, I need to know what this township wants, especially when something new like solar comes along. I proposed, or we as a group proposed, I know somebody did, about opening up the master plan, because I was under the assumption that in the course of opening up the master plan, we would do a survey to kind of figure out and gauge the different perspectives of this township as a whole. We know we kind of stalled out on the master plan. I believe at the last board meeting, they elected not to do a survey. And now I feel like we are kind of blind here as far as what we want. And if you look in your own presentation of what our job is and what the board's job is, you know, they are responsible for the voters. And they're the ones who, you know, I'm appointed. I can be anybody. I can have the most radical opinions in the world. I'm not elected. I'm not directly beholden to these people. I'm beholden to the board, who are beholden to it. And I think I agree with you 100%, Pat. I would like some clarification. The elephant in the room that we've kind of skirted around while we talked about setbacks and decibels is whether or not we're going to move forward with allowing this thing. And I would like some direction on that.
Very good.
So I will second that motion.
Okay, so yes, Rebecca.
Can we kind of probably write it? I think I agree with that. I think that it would be, I wouldn't say that we're directionless. I think that we're almost a little where we're just kind of climbing up this uphill battle and trying to do our public duty and trying to provide an ordinance that we got a little bit of advice from a planner, a professional planner that the board hired that said we absolutely have to have some kind of ordinance. So I think it's important that we do that. But beyond just direction on industrial, that there's also a formal opinion from the attorney saying that at this juncture, we can move it to industrial without implications. I think right now, and I would also recommend an attorney that isn't our current attorney, based on the fact that there's a evolving situation in the state where a lot of townships are getting sued. We do not know at this point whether they're going to be successful. So I think that, I guess I should say, not just our attorney's opinion, but a validation from other attorneys related to what are the changes that we can make. So I'm adding a lot to your very simple amendment, but there is, John, you have, I get a lot of criticism, but you do a Herculean effort to try to manage a lot. And I think that Pat is right, that we're left without strong direction from the board as to where they want to go. Because we're in this situation where we literally are spending our time, our volunteer time, everything, and it could all get changed by the board. And I realize that that's a risk we all take, but I really, and I also, the concern that I have is if we move it to industrial and we don't do our due diligence on a agricultural plan, and the board then decides to go with agricultural, and we did not do our efforts to make sure that all of the things are in place in agriculture, then we're kind of back at square zero. And frankly, I think we all want to be done with this. So I think the board needs to, whether it's a survey, I think that surveys are complicated, they're full of biases, and you end up asking questions in a way that it's super challenging because there's a lot of, we all have our biases on things. And so I just think the board needs to provide an attorney for at least one of these meetings. I mean, at this point, we have like a list. I've lost track of my list to ask the attorney about things. So whether we have to put it in writing, whether we, whatever, I mean, I would really recommend that not only the board provide us direction on industrial, but they also provide us direction that's based off of a legal opinion that is made public. I can't just keep, we can't just keep having this situation, and I think Charles brought it up and said it better than I've said it for the last 2 years, so thank you, Charles. That if we are, this to me is a great opportunity for a community to come together to decide what direction they, you know, where we all see each other going, where we see farmland going, all of those things. And there are programs now, there are really, this is the movement about this term community benefit. And I really encourage everyone to look at that, because if we as a state and we as a nation are going to be moving towards this, these types of things are tearing apart communities because there is a lack of direction from the federal and state government. And that's not a critique on the federal and state government, it's just simply what we're dealing with. And I think this community, and Sharon and I had a really long conversation about this last week, that if, as a community, if we come together and say there's potential property value issues, I think some people brought that up again tonight. There's, if we are going to be a part of creating the green energy for Ann Arbor and all of the different communities that want green energy, and of course we do as well, there has to be an equal community benefit. And whether, to Charles' point, whether it's electricity, whether it is, I have thrown the issue out there about some kind of educational opportunities, because I think that long-term educational opportunities do counteract property value issues. But that's just my personal opinion. I think that there are ways to get back and get some input from the community on that. And while I understand these other communities outside of Milan Township who have gone industrial only, I think that Milan Township has a really exciting opportunity once we get past, I think, some of the feelings and the fear of creating something potentially. And I don't know what that is, but direction from the board would be exceedingly helpful, because I can come up with all kinds of good ideas, but they're only my ideas, and that, so it just would be really helpful, because I'm not an attorney, I'm not a professional planner.
Thank you, John.
Yes, Paul.
Rebecca, what kind of direction are you exactly asking for the board to do?
Does the board, to that point, does the board want it in industrial or agriculture? Now, I believe the board unanimously supported it.
Now, wait, I will bring up any issues that we need to before the board if necessary. Unlike most people here, I am actually on the board.
I don't know what that, I don't know.
Yeah, it's supposed to mean. Now.
$800 like that.
Would you like to know? Guys, I mean, what you guys want? I will talk to the board.
From the board. I want the board after.
Wait, what do you want the board to say? We want it or we don't want it?
On record, stating what they want.
That they want it in agriculture or they want it.
One person should
Simple.
represent the board. So, by the way, let's not bring the temperature down. Like, I literally.
Well, I mean, I can do that if you want, no problem.
I don't think that's what Pat's saying. We're actually, it's not just up to you. We want to take a vote and have a formal conversation about it. I mean, I trust you returning it to the board, yes, but I think it would be more ideal in order to have a vote with exactly what our message is.
So my point is that if you're going to do that, you need to ask something specific. What do you want exactly from the board? That's my point.
guess what Pat and Matt are asking is that the board declare that is ag land appropriate for solar project.
Well, that's pretty simple. You can do that. I mean, we can make up the.
That way, if they say, yes, it is, then you guys can move forward with ag in an ag. If they say, no, it's not, then that says that we can relegate to industrial.
That's fine. We're taking the majority of the heat here, and I think it should be shared.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, some of the sorry.
But I would add on to what I said with Pat is that I think I would also like for the board to, have a really strong discussion about outside counsel.
That's a good point.
Outside counsel for what?
To evaluate what I would say are some outstanding items. I'm sitting around talking about a community benefit for 2 years and I still haven't heard from general counsel about whether that's even legal. I mean, it happens all the time. I have sample community benefits from the city of Detroit that I've downloaded and other types of things, but I still haven't heard whether I'm full shit. Like, I need to know, like, am I even going down, are we even going down a path that is, and then what are the parameters to that path that we can go down? I mean, it's not,
Well, if you have information or ideas about community benefits, then it would be nice if you would share them with us. No, you have
like a
mentioned
contract?
the only community benefit that I'm aware of is that the solar project will be taxed as industrial property, not as farm property. So the township and the schools will benefit from a significant amount of additional tax money, tax revenue. And that is, that they will be, the township will be able to use for our benefit. And so will the schools. So, because the industrial tax rate is significantly higher than the agricultural taxes. So that's.
I get your pushback, and I recognize it, but I have said from the beginning that community benefit programming. I've been very transparent, that I've talked to Brian, to Apex about it. We've talked to the superintendent of my schools about what are some of their needs that are unmet. So we've had that conversation, but until the attorney that represents Milan Township states that you can move forward with a community benefit, and how do you move forward? I can have 100 conversations with Brian, it doesn't matter. I'm just a planning commissioner with an idea, and Bob and I have talked about it. I mean, there needs to be stronger leadership from the top. And I realize that some people have some conflicts that they have to be careful about, but it's not just industrial. So, okay, the board next week votes, we're going ag 2, keep going, great. But we still don't have a leadership plan on moving forward. And even if it's industrial, we still have to put parameters around industrial that are useful, and actually, if it does only go into industrial, but there is some project, there's probably some exciting things you could do there too. So I compliment you all the time about the amount of work that you do, but we are literally just keep swimming uphill without legal counsel or. And so I agree with that.
I don't disagree, I agree with that as well. But if you would, share some of these, community benefit ideas and suggestions, I don't know whether they are, would be appropriate or relevant, topic for the planning commission to discuss. Because, that may not be part of our purview, they might be the responsibility of the township board alone.
Well, then I'll just say this, I will not vote for an ordinance that does not have a community benefit that raises to the level of rises to the level of a return on investment for the long-term
Fine.
future. So
But again, you need to put it on, you need to bring it to our attention, my attention, so that we can all discuss
John,
it.
with all due respect, I have brought it to our attention. We've talked about it significantly to the public on a variety of different things. Don't worry, we've got plenty of time. And I have talked about it, whether it's free education. I've talked about the Kalamazoo Promise. I've talked about whether it's a stipend on electricity for the entire township, not just the neighborhoods. This literally is happening all over the country where there is such a need, and Apex, I don't know much about the company besides what I Google and what everybody brings up, but they're taking an opportunity and they're trying to benefit from it, which is fine. That is America, great. The issue just is that if we keep going down this path, and I understand you guys have brought up all of this, the various statistics about the total amount of agricultural land, and we've had that really strong discussion. But as a country, as a state, if we keep going in this direction where farmland values are being sold to large large conglomerates, farmland is then being used for various different things, like solar, et cetera, like wind, and there isn't an overall strategy. This is not just a message to the community, this is a message to the state. The state needs to be providing better direction than simply the head of agriculture saying it's okay to put solar panels on on agricultural land. That is not direction. That is just, the legislature can't get their stuff together to put it out there either. And so here it is, it comes down to the community level. The large conglomerate comes in, talks to some homeowners. It's exciting for them. It's a great opportunity for people to diversify their income, and that's wonderful. But then what happens is it's tearing apart communities, and it's changing the face of what farm property looks like, I think. And if that's the case, then there needs to be an equal community benefit. And I don't know what that is. I literally, and so that's why I'm not gonna throw it out there. I just happen to know about the Kalamazoo Promise and know what happens there. I happen to know also that this is a township with an aging population and aging housing and a variety of other things. And the only way to change that is to make it appealing to younger farmers, younger people that are gonna be willing to purchase a house. And the only way someone's gonna wanna purchase a house next to a large solar farm is if somebody's kid goes to college for free. It's from my perspective. And I think that's an opportunity. I think this is also an opportunity for people like the ocean. I really do, but we have to be smarter about it, and we have to be aware of how we're all, Tim, thanks. Of how we're all kind of taking this on, so.
I agree with you, but again, you are at the forefront of these community benefit projects, and you've been looking into things, and you need to share that with us. You probably shared it with many other people.
I literally have only talked. I have not shared anything. I have nothing except for my words, because I can't.
Some community benefit strategies. You know, I'm more than willing to consolidate them, you know, put them out there, run them past the, the attorney to see whether they're, viable, or something that we can do, but we need to, get them, just like we have all these amendments that are in our decision matrix that we are going through and considering. That's something that we also need to, have in front of us so that we can, actually, start to think about how are we going to make those happen. Like you
Okay,
said,
I will put
somebody
a
going,
draft, I will put a draft together,
That's
so what I
all.
think, but it's not just you, but I would add on to Pat's amendment, or, excuse me, motion, thank you. That we have a meeting with the attorney, a public meeting with the attorney.
to discuss the public
The
benefits.
many different things, community benefit would just be one of those. I think it's really important to have it in writing, or as far as a public, sorry guys, sorry.
Excuse me.
Sorry. That there's an attorney that will sit there and say, oh, I mean, John, I don't want to pull it out right now and bore everyone, but we had a list of all of the items that we had asked, that we wanted to ask the attorney. We have a whole chart of the items that never got answered by the attorney.
Right.
So, okay, take all of that out of it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to suggest that our next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks, 23rd, that we will have it at a larger venue so that we can get everybody in. Maybe we can get the middle school or.
I've already reached out to the facilities director.
Thank you. And also, that will be enough time. I think we can also have our attorney come and we can put him on the agenda to have this discussion with him. That way, we can, get everybody involved and also get some of these issues maybe addressed that you're concerned with.
I think I communicated a lot of other people's concerns, right?
I'm not trying to dismiss other people's concern, I'm just, because
Well, no, I didn't.
you're voicing them, so I'm referring to you. So, okay, so in that respect, I think we don't need to amend the ordinance, amend the motion, because I will take it on myself to invite Marty, and also, like, we've already reached out to try to get the school to give us
They're asking
auditorium.
what facility we would like. I'm thinking we should give them an approximate number of people.
100. 150.
You guys remember when we had the marijuana at the Milan Middle School, or the old Milan Middle School, what's now Simons Elementary, they had that auditorium?
Yes,
You think that would be sufficient?
I think that'd be sufficient. Okay, so we have so I'm going to restate the motion. Pat made a motion that we would like to request that the township board provide us direction as to whether agricultural land is appropriate for solar project.
industrial.
Well, if it's either, no, see, that's it.
You're just gonna have to say yes, no.
Right,
Okay.
and that way, if they say no, well, then obviously it's industrial. If they say yes, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's yes. So, so is that,
I would say a formal. meeting or two.
right, as a formal vote, declaring, giving us direction as to whether agriculture land is appropriate for solar projects. And Matt has seconded. So all in favor of the motion? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Very good.
Question.
So, okay,
Can I ask a question?
the, okay, I am going to open this for a 5 minutes. I'm going to open this up for 5 minutes for questions.
Sorry,
Yes.
before we bring it back to the public, can we, I mean, I'll go back through my old notes. I wasn't prepared for this for tonight, but don't we have I screwed up and I don't know about my one folder, but we had one of your
Yes.
charts had a list of the attorney's questions. I'll go
Way
back.
in the beginning, there was some notes to that effect. I will have to dig it out as well.
Remember what date that was at? Like June?
No, it was
I think it
earlier
was
than
like
that. It was like
March.
April, March, April.
Okay, because we had delineated it, planner, attorney,
Right.
planner, attorney.
And I will dig that out and review it with you before the next meeting. Okay, so I'm going to open this up for 10 minutes for questions, which I will try to answer. So yes.
So if you had somebody that's fired, what's next step?
At Thursday's meeting?
Are they still gonna vote, or do you guys not have recommendations? That's-
Okay, what, we made a motion, we're requesting that the township board vote on this question. It is up to them whether they will do it or not. They are not required to do this vote. It's our recommendation that they provide us with the direction as to whether they feel, the township board, that the solar project is appropriate for ag crop land. In other words, all the green area. Again, it's, all we can do is ask them. They're not required to do the vote. They can say, we don't want to vote, or we don't want to. But, I think that there are a couple of township board members that will basically make the motion. At least one will make the motion to do it on this question. I know that for a fact.
One of them includes himself?
Not that one. And yes, one of the five does abstain from voting on these issues because he has property within the solar project. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
My name's Mark Campbell, I live on Cooper Road. To answer part of your question, about younger people who to the area, my daughter's been looking for a house for over a year. She wanted to buy my house. Originally, when she got out of college, she was in a yard in Wisconsin. Solar fields going right across the street from my house. She was no interest in my house. And that's been, so we even tell her young people. Thank you. Don't want to look at that.
Thank you. So any questions? Any questions? In the back. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Who is in the back? Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I spoke earlier on Milan Township, I don't know, it says on here that you make recommendations. So this meeting should be a recommendation to the township.
Yes.
Why isn't it?
Which the
We've heard
majority are
from
saying.
LaSalle Township, them folks have no dog in the fight. You've heard from Erie Township, you've heard from Augusta Township. People came to our meetings to tell us, stay away from solar, because they've already got it, and it's a headache.
Thank you.
It's a recommendation.
I was gonna bring that up because I've come here with Michigan and then they have some, so I don't know if you guys looked at that or them later. But as far as what it looks like, they're not necessarily.
So I'll answer questions if you have something. Yes.
Pat made a recommendation, and Matt seconded. Are you guys voting on this?
We already voted on it to do it.
Nobody out there heard.
Oh, I'm sorry, but
You're sorry, but oh.
we voted on a recommendation to request the township board make a decision whether ag land is appropriate.
Are you guys voting on it?
Yeah, ag land is appropriate for solar projects.
So you're gonna use the mic for one comment, and nobody else can hear anything else.
And no, we are, the planning commission is not going to vote on that issue, because we discussed it at our last meeting. But what, like Pat was asking, is we need specific direction, because the township board is our boss. And if they say, go ahead with ag land, that's the direction for us. If they say no, then we take our marching orders from them.
Everybody needs to come Thursday and let Phil know how to.
Sorry about the.
I just want to thank everybody. I know some people have left, but I really want to thank the community on coming around and really talking to the boards, because it's been a fiasco the last year that I've been involved in it. And I do agree that you do need help from the board, from the township board. Pardon me?
I thought this was questions, not general comments.
I will be there.
She gets her 2 minutes.
Yes. Let there be.
He opened it for questions.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
for
You have a
comments.
question.
So let's be the first example for sticking up for our community and putting it in industrial. We have over 150 letters in front of you that everybody signed stating that they want it industrial. I don't understand why you're ignoring everybody in here that has signed. And you're still going, well, we don't know what to do. We have 150 plus more to come. Wait for the board, and you guys are ignoring us. I feel like you're not acknowledging what's in front of you. So with that, I think you do need an attorney. I think the Milan Township attorney, we've never seen him. Have you seen him? That's my question.
Okay, no. So anyway, yes, any other questions? Yes, sir.
My understanding, they're gonna put up fencing around these solar farms.
Yes.
How tall is the fencing?
7 foot.
7 foot, so you got a 7 foot
7 foot
fence,
wire fence.
you got a 7 foot wire fence, you've got a 12 foot solar panel, and you're gonna put in 4 to 6 foot trees. To help cover this,
6 to 8
my
foot.
property is bound on 3 sides. Do I wanna look at that?
Here's what it's gonna look like.
That's, my question is, would you personally look at 3 sides of a solar?
Yes.
So any other questions before we move on to?
You never answered
Yes,
the
sir.
question.
What I want to?
Yeah, would you live next to a solar farm? That you can see 3 sides of it?
Well, with the screen, I wouldn't see this solar panel.
And how long does it take these trees?
Would you live next to it?
Yes, I would. Yes, sir.
Just a little bit off the solar panel topic, that's the agricultural land permit altogether. Just curious, but I forget the decision the board made. Is marijuana, which is an actual crop production, allowed in Ag 1 farmland?
The board opted out of marijuana for dispensaries and stuff like that. I'm not sure about growing. Did we have one for?
We opted out of marijuana.
So your current position is that actual plants are not agriculture, but steel pylons are agriculture.
No, we didn't say that.
That's what we're discussing right now. Whether steel pylons are agriculture or plants are agriculture.
As far as I'm concerned, marijuana is a plant. And it's agriculture. We're headed that direction.
Even if you guys accept it as far as the zoning and that, but the properties belong to somebody, don't they have to sign off on that? Even if you zone it, I mean, it's still the property owners, it's if they say, hey, I don't want this in my field, right?
The property owners, it's voluntary for the property owners. If they want to accept the project on their property, they can, or they can say no. Now, what we're talking about is whether solar projects are appropriate for the agricultural green part of the map, or only in the gray. And like I said, it's voluntary. The property owners can say yes or no. Yes, sir.
Okay, you say that right now. But what happens in the future? Government says we need more of this eminent domain. We're gonna take it, whether you want it or not. Can they have it? Sure. It sure can. Sure can. And it's up to us right now. By the way, the board works for us.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and you work for the board. And everybody here is your boss. Whether you're paid or not. You get signed letters here from a lot of people. You need to take that into consideration. And I don't care what it does. That's your job.
So any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna say just about exactly what he said, but my point is, you work for the township and we're all coming here saying, no, this is not something we want in this area. I don't understand, there's something wrong upstairs. I don't understand why you're up saying, but it's okay, we're gonna do it. This is okay. All you people that came here that signed the petitions that are standing outside don't really matter to us or board members too. It's still not the majority of the nation.
I'd like to, you may not have heard my initial presentation. The planning commission, which this is the planning commission. What we do is we create ordinances to protect and regulate the township. Now, when these ordinances do not approve somebody to be able to do something, like this solar project. Just because we create an ordinance that says, okay, this is how you have to manage and regulate the solar project, does not say that they can come in and do it. The township board has the final say, they're the only ones that can say yes or no to that project. And that's through the special approval use permit. And and if they decide that for whatever reason they don't want the project, they can say no. They can listen to you guys and they can say, hey, nobody wants this, we're saying no. Or they can say, this is really a good thing for the township because of added tax revenue, whatever, green energy, whatever reasons that they want, and they can say yes. Like I said, we are a representative democracy. They are your representatives, and I know they don't like me to say this, but you can recall them or you can vote them out at the next election if they don't do what you want. So that's fine, but so all I'm saying is that what we do here tonight, or at this planning commission, is to help make sure that if the solar project does move in next to your property, next to your property, that you have at least, there are some ways that you are going to be somewhat protected through screening, through the things we can do, setbacks or whatever, and that, there are community benefits for this project.
Like I
So,
said at the beginning, he's pro solar.
so anyway,
John?
Yes.
One quick one. If this happens, to all go through, it gets into not agricultural, but industrial. Is there gonna be a door to be open for another 1,000, 1,500 acres to go in 10 years from now?
that's one of the things that will be part of this ordinance is a cap on the number of acres in Milan Township that are allowed for solar projects.
And we're at 800?
I don't think you can be exclusionary.
No, we can't be exclusionary, we're not.
Well, you are if you're gonna limit.
No, we will discuss that with our board.
That's your board talking stuff.
Anyway, so right now, that's what our plan is, and we will be putting that in our master plan as well as in the ordinance.
You got a question back here?
Yes, ma'am.
Say again what you said a minute ago about that we would get tax revenue. I thought this was personal property. Do we pay personal property in Milan Township?
Commercial and industrial property is taxed as what they call personal property. They call it personal property, but it's, it's a industrial or commercial tax on equipment, machines and buildings and so forth. So, the cement factory down the road here, that's all taxed as industrial. And that's, their building and all the equipment in it is taxed as industrial.
But the building is real estate.
Yeah.
The building is gonna be taxed as real estate, I do believe. The machinery in it is gonna be personal property, and I don't think they pay tax on that, do they?
Yes, they do.
Yes.
On personal property.
On personal property,
Only commercial?
commercial and industrial.
Farmers are not.
Farmers are exempt from that.
Okay. So what is this property considered? This solar panel?
Industrial property. Industrial
equipment.
All the solar panels are industrial.
So how is the township gonna benefit from the taxes then?
Because the tax rate for, well, first of all, right now, the property is taxed as ag land, which is the lowest tax rate. The property, once the solar panels are on there, and the panels and the property will be taxed at the industrial rate. And so therefore, which is a much higher tax revenue, and that will go to the township, to the schools, and when you get your tax bill, your property tax bill, all the items on the that are listed there for where we pay millages, they will be this money will be going towards those categories, and including the schools.
So if it's tax industrial, does the homeowner get taxed more?
No, the project will pay for the taxes for the project.
And who pays taxes on the farmland?
The owner.
The farmer pays the property taxes on the farm.
Well, are you talking about the farmland that is part of the project?
Yes.
That will be between him and the developer. When he leases the land from the when the developer leases his land, he signs a contract with the landowner, and at that point, the landlord negotiates who's going to pay the taxes.
On the land.
On the land, yes. So, it's each landowner will have a contract with the developer that, will spell out who pays the taxes, what happens to the property, and so forth. So, yes, sir.
I have a suggestion. You guys want to get some direction from the board? How about you guys take a vote of what you guys want, so that gives the board some direction of what you guys want, so they have a consideration of what you may want, so they vote.
Doesn't matter what we want. It would
help.
What they want.
It would help, and it also helps the community. You got 150 signatures sitting in front of you. That also should help.
And they will see this. I'm sure they will see it.
They're gonna see it. And a whole lot more.
Okay,
John,
I think we're done with this. Yes.
There's one on here, Paul Carchi, County Line Road. I'm wondering why the planning commission would be recommending some minimum standards for the ordinance versus trying to do what is in the best interest of residents. For example, 500-foot setbacks versus 50.
We've, as we discussed the setback requirements, and because we have screening of the along the road and the property lines, what the 50-foot setback is, at least initially, we basically didn't agree to, but it's we put initially we said 50 feet. Now, there's a 300-foot setback from houses, from non-participating houses. So if you're next to a solar field, and your house is near a solar field, the solar panels will have to be at least 300 feet from your house.
But as a clarification, we have not all agreed on final set.
No, the final draft has not been, that will occur when we have our public hearings later this year, hopefully. Maybe. So, okay, so I think,
Got another question.
one last question, yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering, could we have a roll call of the planning commission to see which each of you feel is best for the solar?
No.
Because
No.
it's-
No, that is not our role. And our role is to create an ordinance to protect the township. Our role is not to decide whether the solar project is a good project or not. For example, excuse me, I answered your question. Back in the eighties, we were informed that we did not have an ordinance to regulate adult entertainment. Or strip joints and other kind of movie theaters and so forth. And so what we did, even though none of us wanted or want that kind of commercial activity in this township, we created an ordinance to regulate adult entertainment in order to make sure that it could be regulated and put where it would do the least amount of harm for the township. And the reason for that is because we are not allowed to be exclusionary. We cannot say no to a particular use except for marijuana. Marijuana we can say no to, but nothing else we can say no to. So that's why we are the responsibility to create an ordinance to regulate this.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I didn't ask whether you feel that you want it for the township. I was just wondering, since the planning commission is a recommending board, what each member felt was the best place for the solar panels. I didn't ask whether you agree with it or not. I'm just wondering, because the planning commission is recommending by law you're considered a recommending board by law. I'm just wondering what each planning commission member feels is the best placement for the project itself. And I know that's not set in stone, but it would just not only give the residents.
Let me
but
answer your
the
question.
board-
Let me answer your question. At our last meeting, we discussed location for the solar project. And right now, the current ordinance says that it can go into Ag 1, Ag 2, I-1, and I-2. And after a lengthy discussion, there wasn't any disagreement about leaving it as in those 4 districts. Now, like you said, it's not set in stone yet. Because it will be discussed again at our public hearing and for a final vote at that time for each item in change in the ordinance. And so maybe some of the districts will change. I don't know from our recommendation. So, but right now, as of our last meeting, when we discussed it, there was no objection to leaving it as all 4 districts.
Nor was there agreement.
I appreciate.
Okay, right, I didn't say that, I said there was no objection. And I didn't.
I appreciate your lengthy response, but unfortunately, that still doesn't answer my question.
Yes.
So you are the plan.
Yes.
If you say you're not an objection to it going in Act 1 and Act 2 and wherever else, then who is? You're gonna recommend it going anywhere.
Yes, we could.
Well, it sounds like that's what you're gonna do.
And it's up to the
Regardless of what we think.
It's up to the township board to decide whether we've done the right thing, whether we've made the right decision.
We can tell you that.
And once, and they can tell it to us at any time, they can, like I said, like Pat is requesting a motion for them to declare on the record what districts they wanted to go into. And then we will go work towards those marching orders. And
so that stack of papers doesn't mean a thing. So now you consider.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Put it this way. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, but it has to sign it, yes. Yeah.
And put it this way, these documents are directional and depending upon each individual planning commission member, it may mean more or less, you know, be more, might mean something or might not mean something.
Oh, come on.
No.
That's the people here that are putting those together.
Yeah.
That better mean something.
Well, it does mean something. Yes,
Okay,
it does.
now that's better answer what you give.
But like I said, what we are doing is we are creating an ordinance. We are not approving the project.
Pro solar done.
Okay, so that's it. We're now going to work, go to our decision makers and start working on the amendments, discussing the amendments of the ordinance. What would you-
Yeah, seriously.
what would you like?
I mean, I'm sorry, that was rude, I apologize. So I guess, I mean, I guess it would be my recommendation to, if we're moving on a decision matrix.
The next item is
Sorry, there's a lot of chatter, I can't.
decommissioning.
I guess since, unless they're items that would be for industrial property, I wouldn't recommend we get too deep into, because for setbacks, if we get into that discussion, I know that's not a part of tonight, but they would be different for industrial, correct?
I think our discussion, the very nature of our discussion, is on the board's directive.
See, not for, like, right now, the next item of the ordinance that we were going to discuss is decommissioning. That doesn't matter what this is. So, I mean, otherwise, you know, what is your, you know, that's what the agenda calls for, unless you have something else you want to talk. Okay. Well, we have what I call a decision matrix, and basically it has all the different requests for changes to the ordinance, and a list of different pros and cons arguments for issues. And worked through about half of it, and we're at this point, we are to the point of talking about the decommissioning of the, what happens when the project is done for and they want to put us back to farm. The page 7 in the decision matrix. So at this point, yes, at this point, we will be doing all the talking after probably around 9:30 or around 9:30. In other words, 45 minutes from now, we'll probably call it quits, and then you guys can ask more questions or have more comments. But until then, it's basically just going to be the 5 of us talking. So
I just have one quick question. When we were outside, we did not hear for sure the wording of the motion that you did vote on. It was something that the board is going to do. Could someone repeat that?
yes, I'll be more than happy to receive it. The planning commission is requesting that the township board through a vote of the township, a vote from the board. Right, from the township board. We're the planning commission.
Okay.
That the township board declares whether ag land is appropriate, whether solar projects are appropriate use on ag land, agricultural land.
and you guys voted to present that question to the board.
Yes.
Township board.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I thought that was what it was, but I just had to make sure, because we couldn't really hear something.
Right. So, okay. Okay. So,
John?
yes.
I wasn't yelling.
I know. I don't take things personal.
The other guy, oh. Yeah, and I'm old for that.
Oh, yes. So, the ordinance, the first paragraph of the ordinance says, following the operational life of the project, the applicant shall perform decommissioning and removal of the large solar energy system and all its components. The planner recommended basically, recommended that the same wording. So forth in that first paragraph. I think that's basically says it all in terms of what they're supposed to do at the end of the life operational life. Second paragraph, the applicant shall prepare a decommissioning plan and submit it to the planning commission for review and approval prior to issuance of the special approval use. Under this plan, all structures, concrete piping, facilities, and other project-related materials above grade and any structures up to 42 inches below grade shall be removed off-site for disposal. So that basically says that everything has to go. Any comments on that? Well, I guess they could have something below 42 inches.
There's some people with stuff down there, they go down, dig down 42 inches, cut it off, there you go. I don't know how that works, what they're doing, but
Right.
I think that should be worded that anything that they put into the ground is stuff has to be removed.
I agree, and I would like to change that wording. I would like to strike the words. And other project-related material, see, any structure, okay, strike the words, up to 42 inches below grade. So I would read, piping facilities and other project-related materials above grade and below grade shall be removed off-site for disposal. However, I would like to then add a sentence or a caveat that says, with the approval of the township board and the landowner, structures below 42 inches may remain.
No.
I don't agree to that. Well, that's because we don't, without us knowing what's below 42 inches, if anything, it may be more advantageous to leave it, or it may be, but again, like I said, it would need the landowner's approval as well as the township board's approval. Yes.
Again, this would be really great if a planner and attorney just to confirm, but I believe decommissioning is already spelled out by the federal government on standards. And then I believe for PA 116 and other farmland, there's additional decommissioning regulations and things like that.
There are,
So,
yes, PA 116 does require everything being removed, and I would have no problems with going with the PA 116 required standards, whatever they are. I know they are extensive, or I should say specific.
so I'm really sorry because I got all excited and put all my stuff away and now I screwed it up. So what was this here where the planner
this was from the document on 8/9/22.
Oh.
If following the operation, blah, 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 and then it says in italics, the value of decommissioning shall be determined. And this was the planner's recommendation. I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right stuff. I apologize. I got disorganized.
Right, that actually, yes, that is part of, the reason I didn't read that is because I felt that that would go a little bit farther down in the section. But the value, it's basically saying that the value of the decommissioning shall be determined by a third party financial consultant or engineer selected by the township and paid for by the developer based on non-salvage value. Once the value is determined, it shall be updated on a year basis, not less than every 3 years. So I'm sorry, I didn't need to.
No,
slight that, but-
I'm disorganized.
No, that's all right. That's good. Put it this way, I would agree to whatever PA 116 requirements are. They are specific, and that should be applied to all properties, whether they're in PA 116 or not. Decommissioning.
How can we force them to do PA 150 recommendations if it's not one PA?
Because we'll have it in the ordinance.
Those will become, we'll borrow the language.
We will put it in our,
Okay, I have it.
and right, and if my memory serves me correct, stuff below 42 inches is gone. So it comes out. So.
Just get those tabs.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so like I said, so like I said, I'd like to strike the 42 inches out of that second paragraph. I think we're all in agreement on that.
Oh,
Yeah, oh, second paragraph.
second paragraph in column 3.
Oh, okay, you're on the decision. Okay.
Oh, I got you. You're going back and forth.
I was reading from the ordinance itself. Okay. Then we have a third paragraph in the ordinance says, any solar array or combination of photovoltaic devices that is not operated for a continuous period of 12 months shall be considered abandoned and shall be removed under the decommissioning plan. That is ordinance that is from MSU and.
How do we tell? How do we tell if it's not working?
We don't, that's something that we can't, we don't, only unless it is, only unless it's obvious, would we be able to tell.
They have to report to the Public Service Commission their total amount of energy generation, and so
Right.
we would find out on the Public Service Commission that there's no energy generation. Okay. I'm, but again,
Do you know? if
really
that's-
helpful to know.
Do you know if that's something that we can access?
I think it's public information, but I don't know if it's online or I don't know.
Just wondering.
Yeah.
But again, if they have panels that are not working or inverter that's not working, we would never know.
Well, I mean, that was something that occurred to me.
And, but then on the other hand, do we really care?
Only if the place starts to look really, yeah, of course. Who knows if we can even see it?
Because we're talking about whether, if there is equipment that was not operating.
It's damaged or something broken and we can see that and they haven't fixed it within a year. We'd have to-
Then they'd have work. Right, then they would have to replace it, or remove it. Yes.
Would that be would that be under decommissioning or would that be? under-
Abandonment and decommissioning. Under, yes, under maintenance, you can address that as well. The next paragraph says the ground must be restored to its original topography within 365 days of abandonment or decommissioning. Restoration shall also include bringing the soil to its pre-development composition to ensure agricultural use upon restoration in Ag 1 or Ag 2 districts, or to the pre-development conditions in I1, I2 districts. Soil tests shall be required as part of the decommissioning plan, both before development and prior to decommissioning. Soil shall be brought back to a pre-development state within 365 days of abandonment or decommissioning. So that is consistent with PA 116 requirements. So any thoughts on that? It sort of says it all. It says it succinctly enough.
Is there a financial guarantee of that aspect of it as well?
That would be part of the bond, that insurance bond that.
So we're gonna hire a third-party engineer to evaluate the non-salvageable aspects. And they're gonna come up with a number that it would cost us to do it ourselves.
If we have to do it ourselves.
And am I correct in assuming that that also is gonna include soil samples?
Yes.
So that when this goes in, we're gonna measure pH, NPK, we're gonna measure all.
Nitrogen and all this other good stuff.
Yeah, and so in 30, 40, 50 years, it's gotta be right back at that.
Yes.
You don't think that's gonna change over 50 years?
Sure. That's why they have to, take all the panels and all the posts out and do the soil testing. And then they have to add whatever they need to add to bring it back to the way it was. And
I mean, as long as that's in there, that's part of whoever that third-party engineer that we hire to, because I think when an engineer, they're gonna come in and they're gonna look at cement, steel pilings, they're gonna look and make sure the fence is all tore out. I mean, there's some, we're getting into some intricate things. And again, I mean, no, maybe an engineer that would be appropriately hired for this job would be like, oh yeah, that's part of the package. I don't know.
It's likely by that time, there'll be lots of engineers that have plenty of experience doing just that. I mean, solar is coming in a major way, so there'll be a lot of attendant services that will get tooled up for that.
Yeah, we refer to a third-party financial consultant or engineer.
Or appropriate professionals.
Perfect. So.
Because Matt talked about things like soil quality.
Right.
It takes different kinds.
Or appropriate.
Yeah, as determined by us, I guess.
Or appropriate, what was the word, experts?
That works.
I think I used the word professionals.
Right. Yeah, we'll add that will be a caveat to mean anybody.
that we determine,
that we
that
determine,
we need help with.
right, right, exactly. Let's come down and decide on that. Promise you.
Hey, whoever knows what they're doing.
So then. Then we have, on the next page on, let's see, on the ordinance. Then goes to, the applicant will obtain a surety bond for reclamation in the amount to be determined by the township as a condition of the site plan approval.
In that one, it says amount to be determined by the township, and over on the other side where Rebecca just mentioned the plan of recommendation, it said the value of the decommission shall be determined by a third party financial consultant.
And that is what I'd like to use in that spot.
Okay,
Because-
the expert, not our board.
Correct. Correct, you know, because our township board is.
I'm sure they do. We also,
Exactly. 25 million or 200 million, you know, whatever number.
Inflation fund.
Yeah, it probably will be by that time.
and this, I'm sorry, this is being reviewed every 3 years, correct?
Yes. The value, the value amount, the amount that the bond should be, would be updated every 3 years.
So we hire the same or another expert, like Bob mentioned, adjusted for inflation.
Right.
We want the same decommission, but.
That's what
it's
we're
not
shooting for, is equal value.
And the first time will be the.
So that it's enough in the end.
I mean, we can get lazy and just go, well, what was the rate of inflation over the last 3 years, but this might be very industry specific. Or might be more or less.
Right. Yeah, so that italicized part that I have there in on page 7 will be replaced number 1. In the, no, I'm sorry, no, it'll replace number 2. No, I'm going back to number 1. The applicant will obtain a surety bond for reclamation in the amount to be determined as a condition of the site plan, take out the township. And the reason, so that basically says they have to have a surety bond. And I don't, this bond for reclamation, I guess I would like to change that to the will obtain a surety bond to ensure removal upon abandonment or at the end of the life of the large solar energy system in the amount to be determined as a condition of the site plan. In other words, what does the surety bond going to ensure?
Yeah, I think you used a few more words, and I was just saying abandonment or decommission.
Right. So that way, the applicant will obtain a surety bond to ensure removal upon abandonment or at the end of the life of the system project as a condition of the site plan approval. Then number 2, we have the township will be able to review the size of the farm and the number of solar panels that will be installed. The amount of the surety bond will fluctuate depending upon the size of the farm. Once the township sets the surety bond amount, the applicant will provide confirmation details. This may be a condition of the site plan. But the township's board, the township's not going to do that. That's where
The expert.
the value of this paragraph comes in. That's, I like to put that. The value of the decommissioning shall be determined by a third-party financial consultant, engineer, or appropriate professionals selected by the township and paid for by the developer based on non-salvage value. Once the value is determined, it shall be updated on a periodic basis, not less than every 3 years. So that would be number 2. Then we have a third item that says the surety bond is to remain in place for the length of the leases or contracts. Don't like that.
Why?
Well, the leases and contracts are between the developer and the landowner. And I don't know, it just, it seemed like I was
What
thinking.
about the surety bond is to remain in place for the length of the leases, contracts, and or the length of the project operation, whichever is greater.
Something, exactly, something like that, yes. The surety bond is to remain in place until the properties are restored to their original condition. And with the approval of the landowner. You want to make sure that the landowner approves of the way it's restored. Because he's the ultimate,
She too. There's a few she's.
They are.
Since the crowd was smaller, I thought.
So, what do you think? You're the financial guy.
I'm thinking that,
Come on
we
now.
need to talk about length of leases contracts.
Well, is there a possibility that you could have or they get to the point where, for all intents and purposes, the panels have been either abandoned and or decommissioned, where they can say, well, we're still in the contract, so we don't have to do anything.
Right, that's my point, exactly.
Yes.
So maybe we should fix a number up front.
See, that's why I want to get rid of it.
Well, I mean, like during the site plan,
Right.
where we fix an end date on the project. Or at least a complete review date. That way, we can say at such and such date, it's time to decommission this, that's what you agreed to.
Except, the only caveat on that is that 20 years down the road, things could be, like you've said in the past, technology could be so different that it's.
Then our 12-month thing will
I got
cover.
a question for you. I don't know if you can answer that.
Abandon it. And for X amount of time.
Right.
We declare it abandoned.
Right.
Hold the bond.
Right.
Clean it up ourselves.
Well, this.
You know what, at this point, we might need a lawyer for this point.
Oh, I agree. And it's something that we will run
To write more, the language more clearly.
Well, that's why I was, saying that the bond is to remain in place until the properties are restored. In other words, the ultimate goal is the restoration of the property, whenever that occurs. So this financial bond is should remain in place until.
No, I didn't know if you knew cash.
Right, there needs to be a trigger.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the property may never get restored and the bond is never used.
I see what you're
So I'm thinking we might need a little help on this point. Why don't we-
Okay.
No, but so any contact for them? I mean, if we put it over here on the side, what would it matter?
That might be a good one for.
I'm not, I know, you know what I'm saying?
Just make sure that it's fixed in a way that we're satisfied with.
I'm just curious.
That was in the comments section.
Okay.
Said, check with the attorney.
Right, that's why I just wrote that down. Okay. Like you said, need a triggering clause. So, yeah, see, right, okay, in the way it's written now, the triggering clause is the end of the lease, or the lease contract, the contracts.
Correct.
Which I suppose, once the contract, once his contract is up, he wants his land back,
Yeah, the contract between
him and them.
him and the developers,
Right.
not us.
Right.
So do we just automatically, after 30 years, say we decided, the thing is, it's not, how do we fix an official date? I think in the site plan, we should fix an official date at the end of the project.
Okay.
Wouldn't that tie some, what if they go, they're 30, and then they're 10 more, then they're 10 more? And they're like, hey, we've renegotiated with.
Then they, no, when the project, then the project, they would have to, we would have to review it and decide
Another site plan.
if we wanted to extend the site plan.
Subject, or the project is expanded.
I think this is a question for the attorney. I think it's good discussion.
Yeah.
I would like to propose adding in the MSU zoning guide. Regarding, access roads kept in place.
Yes, we'll get to that.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought we were.
Sorry about that.
Can we add to the questions on the bond? A question to the attorney, I'll try to remember this, but is it? What is more beneficial to the township, having a bond or having escrow?
Yeah.
Escrow is cash, so you can invest.
Controls investment.
Great, we can show the cities and tell them it's less than 1%.
I did it, coin it.
Well, no, you can put it in the township account and the township can get interest. You get CDs now at 3%. Yeah.
What's that?
But in all fairness, with every 3 years.
Really? 3 whole %.
Much better than.
Let's see, some 100,000.
I wanted to do treasury bonds.
I don't even
Turns
know
out
if
we
it's legal.
can't.
Yeah.
But I do know that there is
That's a safe
discussion right
investment.
now overall with planning on
It is, and got
bonds
it.
versus escrow. I'm adding a little complication there.
Okay, so yes, we will, I've written that down. So, okay. I think, agree that this third point needs to be looked at a little bit by the attorney and thought about some more.
Mhm.
Okay, the I said the PA 116, the information I've seen are for the PA 116 decommissioning is consistent with what we have in our ordinance. So we, township is protected financially. And the land is protected. And that all has to be pre-planned at the beginning of the project. And during the site plan approval is when they have to provide us with the decommissioning plan. And it's also at that time, when everything is approved, they have to provide us with a bond. You know, immediately at the beginning. So, okay. So the next section of the ordinance, unless somebody has any concerns. It's approval time limit and extension. Special approval use and site plan approvals under this section shall be valid for 1 year, beginning it from the date of the township board approval. Once commenced, should construction cease for a period of 12 consecutive months, the special approval use and site plan approvals shall be considered null and void. If construction begins prior to the expiration date established by the township board approval, the special approval use and site plan approvals shall remain in force as long as construction continues toward a reasonable date of completion. However, if requested by the applicant prior to the expiration date established by the township board approval, the township board may consider an additional 1 year period upon showing of good cause for the extension. That's pretty much typical of our what's in our ordinances for special, time considerations. Any concerns with that paragraph? No.
So they have 1 year for construction, am I reading it right?
1 year to start.
Okay. And if at any time, once they start, they stop for more than 12 months,
Then they're
then
done.
they gotta come check with us before they can start.
Right. R, conditions and modifications. Any conditions and modifications approved by the planning commission shall be recorded in the planning commission meeting minutes. The planning commission may, in addition to other reasonable conditions, require landscaping, walls, fences, and other improvements that are reasonable in relation to and consistent with the nature of the applicable or adjacent zoning districts. After approval, at least 2 copies of the final approved site plan shall be signed and dated by the planning commission and authorized representative of the applicant. 1 copy shall be kept on file by the township clerk, and 1 copy shall be returned to the applicant's authorized representative.
That's pretty standard, I think.
Yeah. I was thinking that, maybe I'm just overthinking this, but after on page 8, after with the name which says fences and other improvements that are reasonable in relation to and consistent with the nature of the applicable and or adjacent zoning districts or to the intent of this ordinance. That just might be unnecessary words.
So meaning if the. So like if the site plan came forward and it was next to this guy's house that's on 3 sides, he could add additional, is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what basically this says.
No, that's what, but what are you meaning when you say or other?
The intent, or in other words, it says with the date reasonable in relation to and consistent with the nature of the applicable or adjacent zoning districts. I thought that was maybe a little bit too specific. That and so by throwing or to the intent of this ordinance, gave us a lot more flexibility. Gave us a lot more wiggle room, so to speak. Because otherwise, when we talk about with the nature of applicable or adjacent zoning districts.
So we may have to.
In other words,
make recommendation based on those zoning districts and their ordinances or.
Well, I guess I was just maybe, like I said, overthinking it, but thinking that specified zoning, adjacent zoning districts, unfortunately, actually, everything's ag, so, for us, it really doesn't make any difference. But I just thought,
Oh, wait, we don't know that.
no, we don't. That's true.
From the last time I was given a, I think there's multiple zoning districts apparently.
Okay. Maybe I was just being, well then, like I said, by throwing in or to the intent of this ordinance, like I said, it sort of gives us more, doesn't, I think it gives us more wiggle room to do what we, if we want to do something, without somebody saying, well, yeah, but it's not consistent with the adjacent zoning district. Type thing. Like I said, it doesn't change the text, the intent of those words, but I think it just gives us more wiggle room. What do you? Yeah.
John, I actually think it's maybe the contrary. I know we specialize in beating the crap out of dead horses here, but the way I'm reading it, it sounds like it's like, look, you can do anything, landscaping, fences, walls, in relation to, the character of the zoning district you're in, and you can consider close by zoning districts.
Right.
So, I mean, I get it. It kind of, to me, the way I read it, the words of process in my head, it's like, look, you're gonna ask for X, Y, and Z because this is this zoning district. But if you want, if there's a district right here, and if you want to incorporate some of those standards, it would be unreasonable. But again, you just want to get rid of those.
No, I don't want to get rid of it.
If you're gonna get rid of adjacent zoning district.
No, I wasn't going to get rid of it. I was going to say, in addition to, or the intent. I was going to add to that sentence.
Gotcha.
So it would read applicable or adjacent zoning districts or the intent, to the intent of this ordinance.
Gotcha.
So in other words, it would be additional words, not a replacement. Okay, now, inspection. Inspection, the township shall have the right at any reasonable time to provide a 24-hour notice prior to the desired inspection to the applicant to inspect the premises on which any large solar energy system is located. The township may hire one or more consultants with approval from the applicant, which shall not be unreasonably withheld, to assist with inspections at the applicant's or project owner's expense. Inspections must be coordinated with and escorted by the applicant's operations staff at the large solar energy facility to ensure compliance with the OSHA, NESC, and all other applicable safety guidelines.
So
I get, yes.
The applicant inspections must be coordinated with and escorted by the applicant's operations staff at large, so that the only reason the applicant's operations staff members there to make sure the inspection is OSHA compliant, or is the applicant's operations staff is not the one doing the inspection, they are just escorting.
They're just escorting.
Just making sure we don't break something there.
Yeah, they're escorting. It's basically they're escorting and basically being a sort of just like when you have an inspector coming to your house or whatever, you go along with him so you see what he's inspecting and catching and stuff like that.
This is basically template language, I think, or just in general, so.
Now, one of the
somebody
things-
doesn't pop on a badge.
Now, one of the things I'm wondering about is why do we need the approval of the applicant about who we hire?
That's my question.
Yeah,
We don't have to have that for who do.
I would think
I
so.
know who we
Tired of moving on.
What's that?
So let me be the devil's advocate.
Okay,
So say.
I thought that was Brian's job.
No, but so say something goes in, even in industrial only, I don't know. And the township board gets reelected with a whole new group of people. And there's just, I mean, this happens all over, where, especially now with townships getting recalled and those types of things, and I think something like this can result in some significant recalls and other types of things. That if you, and I'm not saying, so say you have some ill intent or some interest in taking something down. If they are in a situation where they're just constantly saying there's inspections, there's, we want to do this, which is fine, but then you subject yourself to some pretty serious legal issues, I think. Because of the fact that you've got politics playing into it. So the only thing I would encourage is that if this does go through, it then becomes their property or whatever, and they have certain rights, and they're going to fight for those rights. It's just like anything, large agricultural operations deal with this all the time, where I just said that somebody pops on a badge and says, I'm in the Humane Society, boom, I need to inspect your stuff. No, you don't. Like, I mean, they're gonna say, we're only being inspected by people who have a, you know, a certain expertise. Yeah, qualification. So I just wanna urge caution here. I get that, like, you know, we don't wanna look like we sold out to the man. Or to, you know, that they're dictating certain things, but yeah, I think we can open ourselves up to some serious liability. If politics change.
If they don't approve of the inspectors and the consultants.
Yeah. And so anyways, that's, I'm just, I can't think of off the top of my head a good compromise.
True.
And again, maybe not, I'm only playing attorney at these meetings, so.
Well, see.
We could ask, that could be an attorney issue of saying, you know, how does that kind of play out?
Well, see, let's put a pin in that for about this approval of the consultant for one moment, because my next question or discussion point was going to be exactly what are we inspecting? What is the purpose of these inspections?
Well, I think there could be a number of certain, I mean, just thinking that, you know, I don't think that the developer's gonna go in and just make modifications that would be out of the scope of our regulations. I mean, they're not gonna go sneak in there and put it in a 2-panel line system. We've only approved a single
Right.
portrait. You know, I think there's, you know, some grass growth maintenance issues, maintenance of infrastructure that might be of concern to us.
Right.
To go on the property, maybe even outside of the fence, like, I mean, I would certainly think we're at first. Do annual inspections of the trees and monitor their health.
Correct.
So I mean, I could think off the top of my head a number of, you know, we're not going in to check the efficiency of the panels.
Well, see, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
Right
we're
now,
not
the
going
way
in.
it's worded here, we could have an electrical engineer go in and say, okay, well, how come you're not operating at the 95%
Well, I think
efficiency?
to Rebecca's point, I think that's why she's saying that the developer should have right to call bullshit.
Right. Well, that's why I'm sort of leading to the fact that we should have a specific list of things that we are going to inspect.
I don't want to be responsible for it. That's above my pay grade. I suppose a specialized engineer might be able to say, these are the.
30-year project, how would you, I mean, God, 30 years, what could it be? I mean, have no idea. They may start putting satellites on it for all I know, because it adds to the value of it. Then we're getting into like,
Well, right.
you know, so I,
Well, for example, we would inspect screening. The plants.
yeah, so.
We would inspect, like you mentioned last time, the fences. Right. The ground cover. And the drainage. So those are the things that.
We would inspect things that coordinate back to the ordinance.
Right. Things that we are concerned about are those four things, basically.
But so to be, again, I like the devil's advocate, say all of a sudden there is an environmental concern that arises from potential solar panels, or if it's adjacent to someone's property and, you know, there's this concerns about, I don't know, health or other types of things, or if in fact noise surpasses what people are going to say. I think there should be as much flexibility.
Right.
Without it, you know, turning into, so again, that's where I just think an attorney would be so helpful to say, what are the parameters that we can even start getting into here?
Well, like you alluded to, that the parameters that are within this ordinance are things that we
For sure.
can, and which fall into, you know, the site, as we go through the site plan, we will, you know, this list will flush out. I guess I'm just concerned that this is this inspection could, you know, like you said, it can be very political and can really turn into a can of worms for both us and them.
By the way, I'm not saying that it may, it will.
That's why.
This will, for at least a year, there's going to be a
Yes.
litany of
No doubt about it.
issues.
That's why I'm saying that during the site plan review, we will basically determine, you know, what parts of this ordinance these inspections will cover, so that you don't get into, you know, the nitty gritty of, well, you know, those solar panels are you know, not properly mounted or whatever, you know, things that are beyond the.
Well,
our
I think
purview.
that, to Rebecca's point, don't let me misconstrue what you said, is that, you know, we reserve the right to inspect anything related to the site plan agreement and adherence to anything in the ordinance and anything that may arise in the future based on reasonable yeah.
Clarify when you were, yeah, right, I mean, that's the whole, yeah, that's, but John, just to clarify, when you were saying, when the site plan is brought forward, and then you were saying then we would know what we would be inspecting, or you mean we would come in and amend the ordinance?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just saying is that in the this ordinance, for example, like you mentioned, we talk about noise, ground cover, fencing, drainage, screening. Those are things that this ordinance covers, and obviously in our concern to ourselves and the neighbors, and so and so either we should have that spelled out as those items being, or topics being subject of inspection, versus or during the site plan, we will create that the list of responsibilities for the inspector. I'm just trying to basically make it so that everybody, that whoever we hire knows, okay, this is what we're looking at. The inspector is not gonna be looking at the, whether the panels are in good shape, or things like that, because that's up to their maintenance and issues. If they're poor, managers of the project, that's, and it doesn't affect what we are concerned with.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the inspection, let's look at the trees and, we want to get a individual and they want theirs, I mean,
Yep.
We have the right to pick who we want, and if they tell us no, on certain items, we don't care about the condition of their solar. To that extent.
So I guess I just want to be more specific, a little more specific so that, like Rebecca said, if it is somebody in there that's very political or been told to be very political, all of a sudden you get into a big disagreement.
But Pat, I don't want to ignore, do you want to do an amendment or to allow for this, a township inspector to?
It all depends what it is, they've got certain electrical problems, that's their deal,
Yeah, but that's, I mean, the inspector, because they would be the one that.
We should be having, we'll have the right to have our own inspector look at it, get an opinion from them. That, I don't want them to say, no, you can't use that guy, they can use whoever they want, we go from there. But I don't know why it has to be political, but it happens that way, I guess.
Also, you're basically saying that, language that says that they have to approve who we choose.
Yeah.
Should be restricted, should be taken out.
Yes,
Okay.
that's all I was getting at. We both have our own.
I think, yeah, I agree with that. You leave it. I'm sorry.
We both have our own inspections, but they can't dictate what inspector we use.
The township may hire one or more consultants, strike with approval from the applicant, keep parentheses, which shall not be unreasonable.
Yeah.
So we're saying we're gonna hire whoever we want. We're gonna be reasonable. And if they don't like, they don't think we're being reasonable, I think that's the order.
It could get down to a matter of opinions.
Which will always will be. But I think taking out with approval from the applicant is just, I guess we just, they just.
I continue to urge caution. I continue to urge caution. I think maybe if we can put in there the township inspector, so it's an actual official person that does inspect.
But see, the problem is that they will be a township, because the township will hire them. But it's not gonna be.
What's Dave Friend's job? Or what's his title?
He's the zoning administrator and building inspector.
So could we input in there the zoning and, because the only thing we'd be inspecting are zoning and ordinance issues.
But I think we would want to have some experts be the inspectors, like Matt was saying, the trees, I could inspect a whole bunch of trees and I don't know what I'm looking at. Yeah, those brown leaves look good. So.
I'm not dying on this hill, but I would recommend having just take a look at it.
Okay, I'll circle that and put that as a.
Zoning administrator, building inspector, and.
Well, that's what.
His or her designated consultant or township approved designated consultant. Expert. Hey,
Just as long as it's not just
Yeah, I'm sending in the zoning administrator. We have decided that to accompany our zoning administrator, we want a arborist. One that's picked by us. That way you got your official, not some random township planning commission member pounding at the gate demanding to be let in. You can also bring in his or her experts.
Well, that's why it says hire one or more consultants. Which-
So this
We're not
scenario
consultants.
in East Lansing,
Okay.
there was an effort by the planning commission chair, not me, to provide all of us identifications that we could enter property at any time, any place. And that was, and she was, for the most part, a very reasonable, wonderful person. But was very frustrated with some activities that were going on. So it is a very natural kind of progression that people go towards. And so unless it's an official inspector, yeah, I don't know, I think cooler heads prevail and they have an attorney on staff full-time that recommended that not be the case, but it was there was some very strong opinions similar to what we see here about entering property as an inspector. You can get an inspector badge. So I sorry, maybe I've just had bad experiences and those are dictating, because I totally get what you're saying, that it's not just some person, they have a bigger say, but
Good. I think that is a good ending point for tonight. Or if you guys want to continue. Okay, public comment. Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank you guys for what you had to go through tonight. I do understand that our original ordinance had it in ag. I know that you guys talked about it the last meeting, that we can use it in ag. I'm looking forward to diverting my property around a little bit and working with the solar company. Just to let you know that, I am for it to be on my property. I'm looking forward to new technology.
Thank you. Yes, anything else?
Just a comment just on the inspection thing, just for our reading of it. Because I've seen this in other ordinances, I think the only reason with approval from the applicant is in there is because of the next sentence, which is to assist with inspections at the applicant's expense. So that if the applicant is paying for the extra consultants, then we at least have or at least have the ability to say, how is this person qualified, or raise a question about it, but it still says which shall not be unreasonably withheld, which means we would have to have some kind of legitimate reason for raising an issue with it. So I just wanted to point that out, that's our reading, that it already says the township shall have a right to do it whenever. So the zoning administrator, code enforcement officer, they can do whatever they want, we have nothing to say about that. But if you're bringing in extra experts that we're expected to pay for, that there is at least that small check from our standpoint. Okay, if we're paying for it, we want to make sure it's a valid, qualified expert to actually do that piece of the inspection. So that was just my reading of that. I wanted to check.
Which is not useful. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a few. First off, I think it's overlooked that farming is a business. Just like any other business. Part of farming, if you're a crop farmer, corn, soybeans, wheat, hay, you have to do it on land. So therefore, that land is part of the business. It's not the same as someone's backyard. It is part of your business. Allowing someone to diversify what they put on that land helps them with their planning of their business and their long-term income generation. We don't in our township, as far as I'm aware, don't have any other control, say, input on any other business in this township. But yet, we're going to have control, say, of people that have no investment in the business to affect others that do run the business. And I don't see how that's fair. We're allowing residents in the township that own acreage to divide those parcels as they wish and do whatever they wish on those parcels. And there's no say, there's no comment, there's no, well, you know, do we want to have more homes built in here or do we not? Do we want to have ponds put in? Do we want to have pools put in? That's allowed and they do it. Okay, but when it comes to landowners that have made the decision to enter this project after the ordinance was put in place, knowing it was approved, then they made the decision. Now we're circling back around to say, oh, well, maybe we made the wrong move. Maybe we need to relook at this. Those letters were generated by, and I can guarantee this, I would put my paycheck on it. They're generated and signed by people that have been extremely misled. I know some for fact that were told things like, once those solar panels are in, you're no longer gonna have a garden, you're no longer gonna have a yard, your basement's gonna flood. Is that factual? I hardly doubt it. But based on those things, anybody could sign a letter. Community benefit. I find it very difficult to understand why we can't see the community benefit. Once we have the tax revenue coming in my opinion, there can be many things done with that revenue to help our community. My neighbor this past November, 83 years old, fell trying to put bird seed in her bird feeders and broke her leg. She laid in the yard for 45 minutes until the ambulance got there. Now the Milan Fire and Rescue got there, but they couldn't do anything. 45 minutes. So maybe that's one thing we could do. Could we take that money and afford to have an ambulance service to service our aging community, which we all know is out there, us included, you know, to help us. Just this past Saturday or Sunday, Saturday night, sorry. We moved home from the Monroe County Fair at midnight, only to have police officers there trying to find somebody in our field because there was a break-in just down on Wells Road in Ostrand. There we go, there's another community benefit. Could we have somebody closer that maybe could have got there and caught the person before it happened? We have break-ins all the time, spring and fall typically. There we go, there's another community benefit. Water, how many people in our township need water but can't afford to pay for the lines we brought to their homes? Maybe that's something we could fund. So there's a lot of community benefit that can be had when you have the money to do it. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say thank you guys for actually considering this idea and not just completely shutting it down like a lot of other townships have tried to do. It turns out to be a big lawsuit and stuff like that. It's very considerate for the younger generation because fortunately we don't have a bunch of little elves working at the Hort's Core meeting with, you know, we're gonna run out of it eventually. And having this renewable energy is going to benefit the younger generation and generations to come in the long term. I know that I've had discussions with lots of people that are my elders, and I've asked, you know, okay, is it a myth or is it true? Do you guys remember it being not as hot in the summers? Do you remember it being, you know, timeline wise? Is winter coming around the same time it used to? No, it's drastically changed. So by allowing this to come in, it's us as a community doing our part to stop that from progressing.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to say? Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, I want to touch on something Clara said. Talk to Joel, talk to Karen. Residents come in and told them what was being told. They're being told lies. If you're not for it, that's one thing, that's fine. but they're telling lies, and that's what's wrong. And that was totally unprovoked, and the lady come in and started telling what she was told, and it was by the main two. The other thing, industrial. Nobody has a clue. They're all being told these things, but they don't have a clue. Our industrial is all farm ground right now. Our industrial is basically name only because we're all agriculture. If you put it in industrial like they want, you're gonna plug up any possibility of possible water, getting it from the future from Dundee, who's already got it right at the border. You plug that up. And why would you want solar panels on a main road when you don't need it? They don't need water or main road to go to. It just doesn't make sense. And again, it's name only. You could flip the industrial to be on the other side of the highway and it's name only. Well, I'll get to that last. Again, what was the pretense of them signing those? And they should have turned them in ahead of time to even consider. Because that's what's been told over and over. On your inspections or decommissioning, did you have something in there that says, and I'm not sure you might, I know you talked about it one time, if the landowner wanted to keep a fence in a certain field or something, you know, that they could possibly keep it and not have them take it out. And same with maybe one road or something, you know, depending on the property or what is going on.
Right.
As far as inspections, don't you look into like the conservation district, or you had mentioned MSU has something?
He actually got back with John. Does not.
He referred us to the Monroe County or the Extension Service.
Thank you for reminding me. I never
Okay.
responded to him.
Why? So, okay, well, I just didn't know because they'd be somebody that would also be able to look at pollinators, you know, habitat, whatever. They look at a range of things versus just, and I want to remind people too, in my case, this is a chance for me to be able to keep our family farm. I know, again, everybody thinks I inherited everything. They're full of shit. They never come and ask me anything. But regardless, this is a way to make sure that I can keep, it's not on all the land, it's on a small portion of it. And do you want Sierra's company to come in that just bought 4,000 acres? They don't give a shit about what goes on in our township. They already lease it out to hunters that have hunted on my property. They don't care. You know, they talk about hunting rights. Our hunting rights are gone. You know, with these big companies, they bought Charlie Sullivan's, all of theirs over, I know of at least 6,000 or 7,000 acres that they own in our township now. They're a corporation. They don't care. You know, wouldn't it be better to keep it for the local person to own it? The families that have owned it? Anyway, that's my opinion there. One question I had as far as you guys, and I don't know if you want to talk about after or what, but talking about changing the Thursday meeting, and you had mentioned maybe not the township lawyer, but do you have somebody to recommend, or, you know, to get another opinion? Not necessarily planner. Planners to me is worthless because the group's gonna say, if they even say anything that mentions anything positive, oh, they're for it, so throw them out. They didn't listen to a word. You guys didn't listen to anything John Eno said. If you go back and read his comments and everything, you are referring to some of them now, but at the time, you know, so to me, a planner is a waste of money. I do think the lawyer should have been involved way before now. But you had just mentioned something about, I thought you mentioned something about not necessarily our lawyer, the township lawyer, but a different lawyer.
I'm sorry, I wasn't tracking. I mean,
I just didn't know if you knew some, you know,
I just,
because it's a good idea.
I don't know if it's a good idea or not, and if we can afford it, I just, what's it about now? I'm totally
Yeah, I don't remember.
You said outside council.
Let's get my.
But in regards to specifically,
Clarify whether or not we could restrict.
oh, that's what, I'm
Oh,
so
yeah.
sorry, so sorry.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think that just in general, most legal counsel, and I didn't mean it, if the attorney is watching or watches later, I didn't mean it as offense to
No.
him or her, it's more just that right now, you know, you're reading about Mr. Enos was the planner for Manchester Township. Manchester Township is now getting sued. And now whether the suit is of merit, but most corporations are not just throwing lawsuits out there because, oh, we can, to screw those people. I mean, that's not it. I mean, they are suing because there is some, it's merit based. Or they're trying to move it through the process. And so what I'm saying is that even most local township attorneys are not going to have the experience to say, if you move it into industrial at this juncture, because at this juncture, we're different than other townships in that we've had an ordinance already in place for 2 years. And therefore, if we change it into industrial only at this point, are we putting ourselves in a bigger legal situation? Now, the planner was pretty clear that until there's a site plan, you can almost do anything. But I also, there's not a lot of precedent for this right now that I'm aware of. And so that's why I was saying.
right. I just didn't know if you had a recommendation.
I don't have a recommendation. I have 0 recommendations on that. I think it would be, I mean, the attorney could even possibly hire.
Right.
I mean, Miller Canfield does that stuff all the time.
That is true. Yeah, MTA might know somebody
yeah.
specializing.
And the MTA.
And on that note, yes, Monroe County townships have went into industrial, but even Kevin Martis's township has it in ag. There's a lot of other townships that do have it in ag. The state says it can be in ag. And
the state says it can be an ag through a department director. And and that is, and it's not through the rulemaking process. It's literally their own personal legal interpretation.
Right.
And it's now being debated in the legislature, whether it's even.
Right. I'm just saying at this time, it's acceptable.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
when you were saying, I signed one of those papers.
I
don't believe I was misled. No one told me you was going to be all what you guys are saying. The idea is the ag, we're losing food crops. We're not feeding
I'd
our
love
own
to talk to you
people.
after the meeting.
You know, and also what I've been told, shown is these solar things are not in the central area. They're scattered all over the place. It's gonna ruin the landscape of the area.
CRP literally wants another 1 million acres to take crops out of production because there's so much. You can't pay attention to the news with Ukraine, we're not gonna have bread. It's
No,
hogwash. Because there's so many crops, the government still needs more to set aside. And it's amazing that some people can let their property grow up to wood, some people can put their property in CRP, taking it out of farm production, and that's okay. But I can't have solar.
That's what I was just gonna bring up. I was just gonna bring up that we're being asked to take land out of crop production. and
Yeah,
put
my
it set
question,
aside.
why are you guys taking that?
I'll be good. I'll talk to you after the meeting. This isn't the place.
That's why I'm asking, why are you taking it out?
So I mean, you know, when you got the government asking you to do this, you know, I don't have a whole lot on it. You know, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I wanna work with these people to show the community that them and us, I don't know if I word, they and us, however, Apex and us can work together and have something that's
Beneficial.
and you can drive by and see that I've got hay down for the animals that are out there that are this. I got a friend that's a bee enthusiast. He wants to put his bees out. He wants to bring hives over. Bring them. Let's get the pollination going. My father-in-law had bees right up until whatever happened. And poof, they were all gone. Now you go over there and move bee hive and it's yellow jackets. I'm not messing with that.
Yes. Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we adjourn? Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, take your time.
Meeting adjourned.